Have you ever wondered why certain brands' email marketing feels random and disjointed, but on the other hand, certain brands feel purposeful and strategic? The difference isn't copy or designs. The strategy lies in a campaign calendar. And today I'm going to show you exactly how we build a strong campaign calendar that drives consistent revenue. Now, if you're new to the channel, my name is Adam and I'm the founder and head of strategy of Agenzi Media, and we are a retention marketing partner for e-commerce brands driving more than 50 million in e-commerce sales over the past 12 months. Now, without further ado, let's dive into the video. First, let's talk about the 70-30 rule. That states that 70% of your content should be educational or branding, while 30% of your content should be promotional based. So when you're thinking about educational content, think around how-to guides, customer success stories, and behind-the-scenes content. The other 30% that's relating to promotional content, that's mainly due to your seasonal sales or direct selling campaigns. This is vitally important because you don't want to run into the risk of your customers becoming offer blind. So I'm sure you can all think of a certain brand out there who's in your inbox who is firing out 10% discounts, 20% discounts, $10 off, $20 off. And after a while, you literally just become blind to these offers, and it really cheapens the brand in the long run. The idea here with a good solid campaign strategy is to give, and then make the ask. The whole giving aspect also relates to what Robert Cialdini mentioned in his book Persuasion, the topic of reciprocity. So that states the more that you give, the more likely a customer is to give back in terms of a purchase. Now, before you sit down to write your next campaign calendar, ask yourself these couple of questions. Number one, what campaigns performed well in the last 90 days? Number two, what evergreen content can you repurpose? Number three, are there any product launches or promotions coming up? Number four, what quality repeatable content can you put into the calendar, such as a newsletter or a podcast email? By asking yourself these couple of questions, you should start to formulate bunches of ideas on what you can actually put into the calendar for the next 30 days. As a little side note here as well, and what we like to do at our agency is, because we've worked with some clients for 2-3 years, we'll go back and look at all the best performing campaigns over the last 12 months, 24 months, and we will cherry pick those top performers, put them into our campaign calendar, let's say for the next 4 weeks, maybe switch up some copy, maybe make some slight design tweaks, and then put it back out into the list. You see, you have to remember that your list is constantly growing. Well, at least it should be, and if it's not, I'd suggest to watch this video here. But if your list is consistently growing, that means that you're getting fresh eyeballs into your list consistently. So that means that you have people who haven't seen your past email campaigns, and therefore, it makes sense to send these out. And it's probably one of the lowest hanging fruits inside your campaign strategy because there's not very much work involved, but there's a really high impact for the business. So now we're going to get onto the segmentation strategy. And this is something I see a lot of brands get wrong. And there's two primary mistakes that I see here. Number one is sending to the entire list frequently. Never do this, because this means that if you send to your entire list, you're going to have pockets of customers within that list who aren't opening or aren't clicking any of your emails. And that means that if you keep sending to these people over and over and over again, you're going to diminish your sender reputation. Think of your sender reputation as like your credit score for email marketing. And the better your sender reputation, the more likely you are to land in the inbox. The worse your sender reputation, the less likely you are to land in the inbox, of course. Now, the second mistake that I see a lot of brands make is actually over segmenting. So generally speaking, at our agency, we send to 5 segments, and I'm going to list these segments right now. Number 1 is engaged subscribers. Number 2 is buyers. Number 3 is non-buyers. Number 4 is VIP customers. And number 5 is win-back opportunities. The problem here is that a lot of brands might over segment by trying to hyper target a specific segment of customers within their list. And at the end of the day, that list or that segment might only be a couple of hundred people, big. And that means that, you're really limiting the amount of eyeballs that you can get on your email. So I would probably suggest that unless you have a massive list or maybe above 100,000, 200,000, I would primarily send to these 5 segments, because you're going to maximize your eyeballs while still remaining relevant to that customer cohort. And of course, what's crucial to understand here is that each of these 5 different segments get completely different messaging. Because for example, if you've already bought the product, you probably don't need to see as much social proof about the product that you just bought. You're already after going through the process. You don't really need that much social selling, although it's still nice to have in some certain emails. On the other hand, for non-buyers, they don't trust the brand as much as a buyer, of course. They haven't been through that process. So you need to show them more social proof, you need to build more trust, and you need to try and overcome all possible objections that customer may have with your brand in order to convert them as a customer. So let me break down this practically into a way that's easy to understand for a campaign calendar. So let's say you have a campaign calendar for the next 4 weeks and you want to send out 12 campaigns. This is the kind of split that we go for, including the segments that I just mentioned. Do roughly 6 campaigns to your engaged subscribers, 2 to existing customers or buyers, 2 to potential customers or non-buyers, 1 to your VIPs, and 1 to your win-back opportunities. With this strategy, you're still maximizing your eyeballs while also maintaining separate messaging for each different customer cohort. Of course, this is just a random example, but generally speaking, we try to send the bulk of our emails to an engaged subscriber audience and then try to get a bit more targeted between buyers and non-buyers. Then of course, it's quite important to at least once a month reach out to your win-back opportunities and to reach out to your VIP customers so they feel heard. So to give you a helping hand in creating a campaign calendar for your brand, I'm going to share the exact prompts that we use to train ChatGPT up on a new brand and then eventually get a campaign calendar out of it. Of course, feel free to edit these prompts for your brand, but this is what's worked for us and I hope you get some value from it. Prompt number 1. I run a brand called Brand Name and I want to write effective copy for email marketing campaigns. But before we get onto that, I'm going to paste a load of text from our website, which should give you a better understanding of our brand. Does that sound okay to you? Now, ChatGPT is going to come back and it's going to, say that it understands, and then we'll move on to prompt number 2. And what this is doing is providing ChatGPT with a bit of context as to what's to come. Prompt 2. Okay, please note that this will be pasted at random and in no particular order of importance. Here it is, and then insert the text from your website. I would suggest adding literally anything that you can put in relation to your brand into ChatGPT, and the more information that you feed the machine with, the better outputs that you're going to get. ChatGPT is a machine at the end of the day, so the output is totally dependent on the input. So the more that you give it, the more detail you can give it, the better the outcome is going to be. So please be as detailed as possible when you're going through this prompting process. Prompt number 3, based off of the information you have received, I would like you, an expert email marketer, to create a campaign calendar with X amount of campaigns. I would like you to speak about different aspects of our business. Don't put in any flash sales. I want all of this to be content-based. Put your answer in table format and give a detailed brief next to your content idea. Do not include any seasonal campaigns in your content table and list the content ideas from 1 to X. Now, of course, X being the amount of campaigns that you want. Generally speaking, if we have a campaign calendar of 12 campaigns, we might tell it to produce 24 campaigns, just so we have that optionality in the campaign calendar. This ChatGPT process has been an absolute game changer for our agency. It's really sped up the campaign calendar process and been a really nice helping hand. So hopefully it does the same for your brand. Now, finally, I just want to touch on a small bit of planning best practices. And the one best practice I can share with you is planning at least 4 weeks in advance. Now, sometimes you might be tempted to plan more than 4 weeks in advance, but here's a reason why we stick to the 4 weeks. The reason being is that if you plan, let's say 3 months in advance, that doesn't really give you a chance to be as agile as possible. Let's say, for example, if you go ahead and create campaigns for 3 months down the road, you might find out that a certain content style or content idea or angle is working really, really well. And you've just built all this content for 3 months down the road that mightn't actually convert as other content that you've already sent out. So generally we go for this 4-week process because it gives us enough time to be agile while also being super prepared. But of course, this is totally dependent on what strategy you're adopting for your own brand. This is just what's worked for us and allows us to stay agile. But of course, feel free to kind of play around with that for your own brand or clients. Now remember, the goal isn't just to send emails for the sake of it. It's building a relationship with your customers through valuable and consistent communication. I really hope you enjoyed this video. And if you haven't yet, please do subscribe to get more email marketing strategies.